Orion. Okay. Sue, could you unlock the chat? And I think we're good to go in 1 minute.
It should be unlocked, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
It should be unlocked.
Perfect.
I'll just mute myself now. And it's bang on 8 o'clock, so.
Here we go. Thank you very much. Hi, well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming on the call this evening. Every Monday, we have a special guest on the UK, an audience with. Tonight is my great pleasure to introduce One-Star Global President and the co-founder of Zinzino, a lady I've worked with for 4 months now. I'm loving every minute, and as we go through the call, I'm sure you'll get to know why I'm loving every minute, and it's thanks to this lady and her husband, Orion, that I'm here. Hilde Saele, thank you so much for being on the call. And I wanted to start tonight by asking you a question, which I've always wanted to ask, but I've never had the opportunity to ask. Zinzino, the name, is something that I find really catchy and I really like. How did you come up with the name Zinzino?
That's a good question, huh? Everyone wants to know that. No, it actually started, it was a brainstorming session. It was actually our art director at the time that came up with the suggestion. I'm just going to take out this because it doesn't work. Let's see here. Can you now hear me still?
Perfect.
Okay. So it was a brain.
Oh no, you've gone off. You've gone off.
Oh, sorry.
That's better, actually. That was good.
That was good. Okay. So it was a brainstorming session, and our art director, he came up with the name originally, and it was, we wanted a name that didn't have a specific meaning attached to it. That was the original thing at first, and we really liked that name. But later on, it turned out when we started to work in Italy that in Old Italian, Zinzino means to have a great or have a piece of something of great value. So obviously, it's funny how things comes together, but I would absolutely say that when you join Zinzino, you get a piece of something of great value, and it's really what you do with it that will determine the outcome of it. And obviously, the people that really are investing their hours into building the business and are pursuing, you know, the targets, it's amazing what you can get from it. But from the core, I would say for us, Zinzino means inspire changing life. And we want to inspire change in, you know, our family, our friends, and our customers' life by bringing them health and wealth. So big, long story, short point, but you know, that's the background behind it all.
I absolutely love it. Thank you for answering that. Now I know. And it really goes with the company and the culture and everything you instill in everyone. You know, I've been in the industry a lot of years now, and I've never felt like this family stroke, culture stroke, everyone willing everyone on, no matter if it's corporate or partners or customers. We're kind of in this together. And now I know what Zinzino means. When I'm asked, I will say that. So thank you very much.
A piece of something with great value. It's amazing, huh?
Amazing. In the last few months, a lot of companies have faltered. You know, it's been very difficult for companies. We, Zinzino, have done just a great job in terms of growing the business. What would you put that down to?
Well, I think that it's never one piece, you know, to the puzzle. There is always different things. And first and foremost, I would say that the companies today that are debt-free, that are cash flow positive, that have all of the foundations in place, both corporate-wise as well as also out of the field, are well positioned to grow during these times. Unfortunately, also in our profession, we do see companies that are struggling tremendously at this time, but we also know that in our profession, also, for instance, during the recession in 2008 as well as 2009, Zinzino was really rocking, and there was also a lot of other companies in our profession that was really doing well. However, it all started for us, you know, when this crisis hit, I would say in China. We have a big group in Australia, Chinese group in Australia, and we were in the process of opening Hong Kong. So when this hit, we really started to pay attention every single day, I would say, that we were focusing on attention of what is happening around the world. When there was a lot of noise on the line now, to make sure we need to mute some people.
Yeah, it's because it's been unmuted.
Guys, can you please
Come in, it's not always inside, even outside then.
I think they
Okay.
Now I'm unmuted again. Super, wonderful. So this, together with also that we had a director trip coming up with close to 500 people flying in from all over the world, really caught us to pay attention that could this really be safe, you know, that to bring all of these people together. So the first thing I think we all started with, or Orion and myself, was first and foremost that we paid attention. Secondly, we also started softly to warn our leaders. A lot of them, I would say, at the time in February, beginning February, thought we were a little crazy, and most people probably thought at that time, but we did that, and I think that was good, because if you're warned, it's easier to also act proactive. Then we increased our communication, both with our core leaders, several actually leader levels, to ensure that every single one was prepared, or as I would say, as well as prepared as they could. When it came to the corporate side, we have an incredible corporate staff that has been just doing absolutely throughout the amazing during this process. First and foremost, when it comes to planning and stacking products in our warehouses. So we are at the moment very good to go for 6 to 9 months. You know, if there would be another hit on this, you know, we would be still good to go. And I think that is very, very well planned. Secondly, our leader team in Gothenburg also did an incredible job on ensuring that people got home offices, providing the tools necessary so that all of the vital roles could really operate from their homes, even before, you know, there was any rules on that. And then also, when we noticed that the crisis was really hitting, you know, our French warehouse, our CEO as well as our COO did an incredible job on just turning around everything, ensuring that suddenly, you know, a process that normally would take 6 months would now take 6 weeks, and we're now opening a warehouse in Poland that is actually positioned to be able to ship out 6,000 packages every single day. So I think that they've done an incredible job. And then I have to say that I'm so proud of our leaders in this this specific situation, because first and foremost, they thought, some of them at least, they thought we were a little crazy at first, but they trusted the decision, they trusted the process. And even also without our involvement, I would say, in some cases, they just did an incredible job moving all of the offline business online, also before the rules were in place and the local governments were actually demanding this. So I think that throughout this, our leaders have just been exceptional, and the cooperation with cross lines, ensuring that the meetings are held in all of the different countries, have been throughout the roof. So to come to the point, you know, there are several different things that has made a difference for us in this process, but I do believe as leaders, it's our role to pay attention to what is happening in the world around us, and then based on the information, try, at least do our best to predict the outcome, you know, what is happening in the future. Sometimes we're lucky, sometimes we're not so lucky, you know, sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. In this case, we ended up being right. And that, together with just an incredible organization, I would say, has really enabled us to grow strong through this. So I think that at this time, things are far from perfect, but we are working on developing more online material to ensure that everything runs even more smoothly out in the field. Even though March was exceptionally well, I do believe now April is going to really have a great closing. Maybe we're going to create some record month also now in April. I'm pretty confident about May, and we're going to continue to push. But I do believe that the partnership between the corporate, our sales directors as yourself, Steve, as well as also the leaders in the field, well, every single one is so ready to go into full battle, upper, the activity, increase the amount of hours, and together we're going to come very victorious through this on the other end.
I love that, because I've been in the industry a long time, but I'm new to Zinzino, almost 30 years. And in, I think, every other company, you have like the company here and the partners here, and the kind of the align and partnership is just not quite there. And when I kind of on the Leaders Council, listening to the leaders talk to the company, and you guys talk about strategy and campaigns and ideas, just the way the company kind of shares information, takes everything in, then obviously makes a decision and communicates it, is something that really excites me. And I just know we're in safe hands really for that reason. But thank you for that. Hilde, what do you see as the main strengths of Zinzino as a company?
How long would you want me to go? Emai is here. Well, first and foremost, I do believe that one thing that I really want to emphasize is that we're evidence-based. We're not doing guest-based nutrition. We do test and evidence-based nutrition. And at this point in time, we have the largest database in the world when it comes to essential fatty acid analysis, and there are corporations, there are organizations, companies out there that are screaming to get access to our database. So that is foundational, and I think that the world is leaning towards proof rather than opinions. So that is one side of it. If you look at the market here, when we just talk about the omega-6 free balance, we know that already about 500 million people are currently using an omega-3 supplement. And this industry is growing with about 7.6% every single year. It's estimated to double in turnover during the upcoming 4 to 5 years. And we do know with our disruptive technology that with our 500,000 soon now tests, that even though you're taking an omega-3 supplement, you're still not necessarily within the recommended zone. You're not in 3-to-1 balance between omega-6 and omega-3. Actually, 97% that are saying that they're using an omega-3 supplement, they're not in balance. So we have a job to do when it comes to the existing market. It's a really big potential, I would say, when it comes to that, as well as also the open market, the 7.2 billion people out there that still to this day don't know necessarily how important this is for them. So I believe that is really foundational, that we are based on evidence, and that is really attractive, I do believe, to a lot of people. The second thing is that we're customer focused, customer centered. I think that every single person that are around a Zinzino partner, a Zinzino leader, hears the word customer, customers, and that's really the key, because if you're going to build something long term, you need customers as a foundation. I see this also from a lot of people that might have, some experience from other companies that come into Zinzino, and they've been working with Zinzino for about a year. They've been working up their customer base, and suddenly they come to me and they say, you know what? Suddenly now I love Christmases, I love Easters, I love summer holidays, because my income doesn't necessarily drop. It's much more stable and not necessarily so focused on that you always need to recruit. Obviously, recruiting is very essential as well to grow a big business, but I think that's the foundation. And from early on, from 2005, we decided that we wanted to have a customer focus, but we were not necessarily great at it, I would say, before 2007, 2008. I remember just a lot of stories here that pop into my mind here, but I remember it at one point we were sitting around the kitchen table, Orion and myself, and we were talking about that we really wanted to grow the business faster. And it was not at the speed that we really wanted it to be. And we were talking about, what could be the reasons for that? Could it be, that there was something wrong with our products? Could it be that there was something wrong with our corporate staff or our leaders? We had old system. We had all of these reasons, and I'm a little embarrassed to say it, but it took us about an hour, I think, to realize that when you're pointing your finger at someone else, there is always 3 fingers pointing back at you. And we were like, gosh, we're the problem, because even though we had gotten customers, it was like maybe we had gotten 10, 15 personal customers at the time. We were not a great example to follow. So obviously we decided that here we really need to do something about this. And at that point we decided that, just sorry here, my phone is starting to talk here. I have Siri on. I'm speaking so loud, getting so excited. But anyway, we decided that, for the upcoming month, we're gonna really do our job here. We're gonna lead with taillights. And 30 days later, we had both gotten 25 personal new customers. We started to talk about this for our leaders. It wasn't necessarily received super positive at first, but step by step, our culture changed. And today, I'm so proud of our customer focus in Zinzino. And that's one of the things that you're going to notice when you participate at one of our bigger events, that there is just tons of people, thousands of people coming up to stage that has 25 personal customers, 500 customers, there's so many people on 100 customers and above. So customer focus is another one. And then I also do believe that obviously the quality of the products is essential. The price point of the products is also very essential to ensure that you retain your customer base. And we're not necessarily at the lowest range. We're not at the most expensive range. We're somewhere in the middle, I would say. And I think that we've found around that price point, where it's not necessarily taking a big chunk of the customer's budget every month. And that's probably also the reason why we, in most markets, actually retain around 70% of our customers after 1 year, which is quite exceptional, I do believe, in our profession. Then I could probably talk about the local adaptations to, different languages. I think that local adaptation to different markets is very essential, and that's the focus for us. When we talk about Complan is a little risky to talk about, because after all companies has a pie and there is a certain part of the pie that you can share as commission. In most companies, it's between 30 and 50, or usually around 30 to 50%. Our target is around 46%. At this time, we're not really there. We're above that. I would say more closer to the 50 because all of the campaigns we're running, but we're still, we're debt-free, we're cash positive, so things is running smoothly. But what we've focused on in our comp plan is really to pay well for mid-level leaders. And I think this is one thing that is an advantage. And our viewpoint about this is really that if we can get people faster up to 4,000 to 6,000 euros, around that a month, I think that would be, that is essential because then more people can faster go full time. If you can go faster full time, it basically also means that you can invest more hours, build a much more solid business and grow from there on. So all of these is probably essential, but probably the thing that I'm most proud of is our culture. Our focus on personal growth. And I think that when you at one point you qualify for incentive trips and you come with us to different travels, you're gonna really feel that we have a very family-driven culture, like Steve is talking about. It's I hope that you would feel a part of our extended family. That's at least how Orion and myself feel, and our main leaders feel. As well as also, that I really do believe that the focus on personal growth is so essential. That's really a core focus for us. And that was actually one of the most emotional things for me here when I received this video on my birthday here yesterday. Was all of the greetings from leaders that did not just talk about how, you know, the products had changed their health and their finances, which is very fabulous in itself, but also how they have gotten, you know, to a different level when it came to personal growth, where they have developed as a person, they have gotten stronger relationship with their spouse or their children, relationship, they've gotten more self-confidence in the process. And that's really, you know, all of the stories that really gets me emotional, because I know that in the long run, it's really your personal growth that will ensure your victory.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, in the 90 days I've been here, I've seen people grow so much. It's unbelievable. And, you know, with the GoCore app, which people can go to in their back office, all I get is positives from that. And just to tell you a story, I was in Florida 8 years ago, actually for no particular reason apart from to go to a meeting. It was an open to kind of people from the industry, and we flew into America, and I was told you have to go and listen to these presenters. They're brilliant. And I did, and they come and go, and they come and go. And this is the first time I met Orion. And I did not even know it until I was introduced to the business November last year. But what I remember him saying on stage was, he was talking about customers being the focus, retention. And I remember now, everyone in the audience loved his passion, loved his vision, but could not see that because it's generally based on recruitment and then customer comes second. But I remember that. So when Dave showed me kind of the test and the product and Orion and yourself, I was like, I remember this guy. And I said to him, yeah, he's still doing it. That was really quite fun for me, and just a massive tick. But yeah, the retention rate on the product is amazing. If people get in balance, they stay on the product, they don't come off the product. It's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. The oil, the balance test, and now the protocol, real drivers for the company. Amazing. How did this come about? How did the product range come about to include that?
Well, it was, and I believe it was April 2012. My hubby, he came home from a meeting. I had been in other meetings that day, and he said, you know, if what I've heard for the past 2 hours from a scientist that I just had a meeting with is true, we have something that the whole world needs. And I have to admit that I'm initially a little skeptic when it comes to new ideas. I'm not necessarily the one that automatically jumps on it. Maybe it has to do with me. You know, when I got started with direct sales, I was in law school, and I come from a family, you know, academic family where my dad is a doctor, my mom is a nurse, and, you know, you always have to dig into the facts of things. But I agreed on taking a test because I was curious to see, because I had been using omega-3 more or less my whole life. Actually, it's an interesting story behind that as well, because my grandpa on my mom's side, he actually got the Royal Medal here in Norway, beginning of the 80s, for being the leader of the team that actually led to the discovery of how people are consuming omega-3 today. So it's an interesting, you know, background when it comes to this and how this all came about. But anyway, I was curious to take the test. And I think that it was my initial score there that really, you know, woke me up to see what an incredible global mega trend this would become. Because at the time I was taking the test, I was eating healthy, I was exercising on a daily basis, you know, I was including omega-3 in my diet. And still, you know, I realized that I was absolutely not where I needed to be. And I realized that, you know, when health conscious people like myself are in the same situation, and you realize that the only way you can actually know for sure if what you're eating or supplementing with is working for your body is by testing it. Of course you want to test and check out, you know, what's the actual results. So on my first test, I was 14.6 to 1, so close to 15 times more omega-6 than omega-3. And that was in spite of me using, at the time, 2 omega-3 products, one vegetarian-based, one fish oil-based. And then after about 120 days on the product, I was down to 1.7 to 1. Now, step by step, we started to test our leaders. We wanted their involvement in it. We really wanted to see, you know, how this would affect their results, their health. Throughout this, you know, story by story started to pop in. 2 months into the process, I started to notice a difference on my skin. I noticed that my hair grew a lot faster, my nails grew a lot faster. I noticed a difference in my recovery after exercise. I didn't go around, you know, with aches and pains for so long. But really what made a big difference for me, and this wasn't initially, you know, what made our help or had us, you know, start with and sell this product some months later. But what really made a difference for me was that about being in balance for about a year, suddenly one of my big health challenges melted away, and it was a sports-induced headache that I had been going around with for about 10 plus years, where I had strong headache 3 to 4 times a week. And it was something that I was used to, but still not necessarily an optimal way of living. But then suddenly, after being on the product and being in balance for about a year, that just melted away. That in the process also, before we launched our balance oil, I also noticed quite a big change for Orion. He had been struggling with some stomach pains that, you know, suddenly he had been living on a Stone Age diet for so long. It was a really boring diet, I can tell you. And also for me, you know, that sometimes had to eat the same food. Yeah, I saw such a big health challenge in him. And I think that has really been, you know, the focus here, that it started with, you know, that this might be interesting. This might be something that could potentially be of great value. But then after, you know, working with this now for, I don't know, is it 8 years or so? So we really see what an incredible change this is doing in people's life. And obviously also with the rest of the product portfolio that is now has been developed, and with Dr. Paul Clayton's involvement, I'm just so passionate about our health protocol, because we really see that it's changing people's life. And I think that it's just a natural, you know, that is really our focus today.
Absolutely, and Paul's done a great job along with the marketing team who I've met in Gothenburg, who are just fantastic. So that's very good to know. You must be extremely proud of this company. Can I ask you, what projects are you working on now for the future?
Well, first I have to say that this is not a 1 or 2 man show. This is a team. I'm very proud of our team, because we have such great people in the office and so amazing corporate staff, as well as also leaders in the field. So it's a big partnership. Luckily, I'm not involved in all the projects, because then, you know, I wouldn't be able to be in running and the sales. For those of you that don't know, Orion and myself, we don't have any corporate positions. Our passion is really being out in the field and running the sales, like you. So that is really our core drive. And at the moment, there is different projects going on. Most of you know about the expansion plans. Obviously, you know about the launch of UK finally, right? But then there is also so many markets that we're going to launch during this year that we're working on. And well, we can talk about Russia, we can talk about Ukraine, India, Cyprus, Greece. In Asia, we have Hong Kong, we have Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. I'm probably forgetting about some countries as well, but there is a lot of countries that are now in the process of being open throughout this year. So our IT department, as well as our marketing team, together with the logistics and all of the other people that needs to be involved, are really doing an amazing job. I would say a little bit behind the scenes when it comes to this. That's not necessarily something that you see from day to day. Obviously Orion and myself are involved in also different things here, but first and foremost, I would say maybe what is relevant for you is that we are focusing a lot of our attention at this moment to develop more functional, I would say, online material. presentation material. And we haven't really set a specific deadline on this because we like to test things before we launch it. But this is a process that is ongoing, and we really do hope that we can launch, you know, piece by piece within the upcoming months. Then also we have an e-learning project that is being developed, and that we're also focusing on. At the moment, we have our Zinzino TV that has a lot of videos. It's a lot of great content, but it's not so well organized, I would say, because of the system behind it. So even though there is, so we're gonna make that a little bit easier as a first step, where we're gonna integrate a get started button, and then have the different videos available there that you can actually select, you know, the subtitles on the video, depending on which country you're from. Obviously for you guys, it's very easy because it's English. but anyway, you know, that the new partners that you start have a very, you know, specific place where they can go on and they can watch the videos. These are also going to be available on the GoCore app. And the real project is not really this. It's actually to get this accessible in the back office. It's just that technically it takes a little bit longer time, but then we're going to have like a model 1 and a module 2, where the first module is really about, you know, for the new partner, these are the top 7 videos that you need to watch to go through immediately when you get started, and then more in-depth information about the product, the way we work and the system and all other things that is important, I would say, to build a big team. So the e-learning project is important. When it comes to the GoCore app, I really recommend you to download that app, because it's like hundreds of hours of so brilliant educational material, both from leaders that are within Zinzino, but also outside amazing speakers that we're so privileged to also have available, you know, for our team. So we're developing a lot of videos that will come up on GoCore, and also doing the language adaptations to the GoCore. So it's going to be more videos in different languages. And then, well, one more thing, the Zinzino mobile app that is very functional, I would say, now in English, not necessarily as functional in different other languages. So we need to also have a focus on that. But there is so many different projects that we're working on constantly. And I think that as long as we want to grow, and obviously that's our big ambition and big passion, we constantly want to grow. There is never going to be any projects that are done, I would say, in this process. So we're always on the move when it comes to constant improvement.
Yeah, continuous improvement is all we need. So I appreciate that answer. Very cool. UK's in pre-launch now. We've got a lot of people coming through, starting to become leaders in the business, starting to earn the money you was talking about earlier. You know a lot of leaders. What separates leaders from everyone else? Anything specific?
Well, hunger, definitely, I would say, is the first thing that I really want to emphasize. As a leader, you have a drive, you have ambition, you want to achieve something for yourself, for the people around you. You want to make a difference. Maybe you have a focus on, you know, spreading the word of health or whatever, but you're hungry for something. And I really think that this is the main thing that is important when it comes to leadership, because that is the core foundation of it all. A lot of people, they fall into the trap of believing that it's the business in itself that will enable their prospect, their guests, to join. It's not necessarily the business in itself, even though I love Zinzino. It's you. It's your vision, your targets ahead that will enable people to join you. So they don't necessarily join only your business, they join you. So that's also why it's so extraordinarily important to actually set goals for yourself, know your targets, as well as also be good, I would say, about communicating those targets. In addition to hunger, I also do believe that being honorable is very important as a leader, as well as also being honorable. So when it comes to being honorable, it really means your integrity, you know, that you finish what you start. It means your focus. It means your tenacity, your persistence. It means that you keep your word for yourself as well as also for the people around you. And I think that those things are really essential to long-term growth and long-term success. And when it comes to being honorable, it really means that you are adaptive to change. And obviously, like most people are deadly afraid of change. They want things, you know, as it is, or maybe they want different results, but I don't necessarily want to change themselves. And if I look at myself, you know, over these last 20 years, I don't necessarily have changed my values and my faith and all of that, but I'm a totally different person today than I was 20 years ago. I think differently, I act differently. When I meet challenges, I would have totally different solutions to those problems, to those challenges. And luckily, you know, over the years, I have developed. And I think that, you know, not being afraid of change, but just jumping into that and being okay with that, you actually have to grow into a better you, is very, very essential to also become a good leader. And I also do believe that, you know, one of our focuses for Orion and myself has really been that we have always had great mentors around us. We've picked and chosen, you know, to have good people around us that we could follow. And I also believe that that's essential in this process, because if you have people around you that have already walked the walk before you, it's so much easier to actually visualize and believe that those things that maybe seem impossible for you in the situation that you're in today actually are possible, because you actually view proofs, living proofs that they are going and doing those things that you dream about. So a good leader, my personal belief is that a good leader is also a good follower. And I think that having those great mentors around you and then being open to counseling, and not necessarily just listening to that coaching, but actually implement the advice that you get is really, really essential. So the 3 H's, you know, hunger, honorable, and honorable is so essential when it comes to leadership. And that's probably, you know, my top 3 pick if I'm going to categorize a leader compared to all of the rest.
I love that. It's really interesting. Thank you. Obviously, with COVID-19 in the UK, we've been locked down now 35 days. You know, weekends don't seem to matter anymore. Every day ends in Y, and that's about it. And we just get up early, we work, and we drop dead at the end of the day. What is working, would you say, in terms of adapting from being out and coffee meetings and big meetings? What is working in other markets in terms of switching to online that, you know, perhaps we could adopt in the UK?
Well, what most markets now are doing is that they have national business presentations and customer presentations every week. And I think that having that in place, the infrastructure needs to be in place. I think that is very important, both when we're working offline as well as online, that you work from meeting to meeting. We have what we call the business planning sessions. That is more in-depth education about different topics. Most countries are doing that also at the start of the month, either as a business planning session or as a kickoff event for the month, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that, you know, creating that community and that infrastructure is very, very important. Now, 1 or 2 things that I really want to emphasize to make sure that this works is that, first and foremost, to ensure that you get results from this, relationship comes first. Working online does not mean that you're going to send out 50 text messages or, you know, chats and with a link and say, join me on this meeting, I have a great opportunity to show you, or something like that. It doesn't mean that you're going to go on Facebook and spam people. It means that you need to build a relationship first, because people will join you if they know you, they like you, and they trust you. You've probably heard that before, right?
Brilliant.
And I think that the first approach should be either on the phone or as a one-on-one, preferably in a Zoom setting, for instance, or an online setting that you choose, or a two-on-one together with your sponsor or your upline, where you show people the products, your business, and you start to, you know, talk about this idea. And I think that from there on, it's important to invite people to, for instance, the business opportunity meetings, because you can just visualize yourself that if you're a guest and you suddenly get approached with this text message and this link, and you're a little curious, you log on, but then there is like hundreds of people, or they're talking about things that you have absolutely no clue about. It's so easy to just log off and really don't pay any attention. You're like, gosh, I'm not going to necessarily use any of my time on this, right? But if you are preparing people, and maybe you say that on this meeting, you're going to see someone that is talking about the company and the product, someone is talking about, another person is talking about the business opportunity, then we have a third person that is talking about how to get started and their personal story. I'm so excited to hear this specific person talk about his story because it's so exceptional. You know, talking about this, preparing people for what is to come, as well as one more thing. And that is that you add that you want to have a follow-up meeting with them. So before they actually log on to the link and they're on this meeting, you have already scheduled the follow-up meeting. So this is so important for you, because then you're not going into chase mode, or the mode, you know, where you're like sitting and waiting and you don't really know what to do, because you're really hoping that they're going to call you back and say, oh, I'm so excited to join, you know. And we know that that's not necessarily how it all comes about, and that's not necessarily how it in most cases happen. But if you have already booked a follow-up meeting, personally, I like to say book that, like I said, before they are on the webinar. And I like to do it immediately after the meeting is over, or the day after, so it's still fresh in memory. And then in that follow-up meeting, I would talk about this great global mega trend, you know, and what is separating us from other conventional products, that I ensure that they have understood the difference between, you know, what are we doing, what are other companies doing. I try to make a point out of talking about their drivers, their motivations, instead of just the things that I'm passionate about when it comes to this. I talk about how we work. I talk about that there is going to be integrated in a team. They're going to get help along the way. I talk about our fast start program. I answer questions. And I think that, you know, ensuring that you have a lot of follow-ups is essential. So the key thing that is take home here is really two things: that relationship is the key factor that will enable you to sign up customers as well as partners. And the second thing is that you have to be good at following up. Follow-up is essential. And I just like to mention one very, very quick study here. I know I'm talking a lot here, Steve.
Right, it's brilliant, thank you.
But anyway, you know, if you've read the book Go for No is a great book to read. And in that book, the authors are talking about this study that 44% they will only approach someone one time. 22% they will follow up a second time. Then you have 14% that will follow up a third time, and 12% will follow up a fourth time, which basically means that it's only 8% that will actually do the fifth follow-up. And then we also do know that in most cases, 60 to 80% will usually not be ready to say yes before the fifth approach. So that's very often why I say that, you know, in most cases, 8% are ending up with 80% of the results, because they actually are good at following up. So I believe follow-up is key. Having frequent meetings is key to really close the deal online. And you have to sometimes be prepared when you work online to have a little bit more approaches to actually seal the deal and get people started. And I think also, you know, one of our Royal Crowns, Hugo Olsen from Norway, he says it so well. He say that, you know, if I've done a great job before signing people up, you know, I'm gonna make it so much easier to really ensure that they are willing to work and they're really to, you know, work hard and get fast results also after. So I think that, you know, doing that process well is very, very essential to get good results. So I was talking a lot here, Steve, but I hope you got something from it.
Honestly, it's fantastic. And, you know, you've been on like almost 45 minutes now. And I think on behalf of everyone, we really appreciate everything you've done, your energy, dedication, commitment, just the business. It's absolutely incredible. Before you go, is there anything else you would like to say to everyone? And I'm not sure if you can talk about next Monday's special guest. If not, we can do that in the week. No.
Of course we can talk about that. We're going to have Randy Gage on board, my friend. So we will send out this news and the newsletter, and it's going to be open for every Zinzino partner. He's a dear friend of Brian and myself, and he is so ready, you know, to talk about a subject. I'm not going to reveal that yet, but talk about a subject that I really do believe is essential in this process. But some final words here is really that give yourself the time you need to succeed. And I think this is very important. Like if I look at my own story here, I got started when I was 20 years of age. And I was absolutely not an overnight success. My first month, I had 70 meetings. I got 63 no's. I had 7 people, luckily, that said yes. But then 3 of those 7, they regretted saying yes. So they shipped their products back. And I ended up with 4 out of 70. Not necessarily a brilliant number and start, I would say. But again, I actually had to work quite hard the first couple of years to really get to my initial breakthrough. If I look at my husband, he got started with direct sales when he was 17 years of age. And I think you have to ask him about the numbers exactly. Well, I think that in his first 4 years, he earned approximately less than 300 euros. You know, so neither of us was an overnight success. And I see that with so many people, that the reason why they actually break through is because they have a consistency over what they do. And I think one of the traps that, again, is easy to fall into is to have the start and stop mentality. You start and you do a lot of work for maybe 2 weeks, and then you end up doing nothing for 3 weeks. And then you start again for maybe 4 weeks this time, and then you do nothing for 2 months. And sometimes I've seen people being part of our profession for maybe 10 plus 20 years without actually getting a crazy breakthrough. And very often that's because either it's because they've had a start and stop mentality. They haven't had that consistency over what they've been doing. And I think that just ensuring that that is the part of what you do, have a consistent focus. But then also the second thing is essential. You have to check and adjust along the way. If you read, for instance, the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, a brilliant book, by the way, I think it is in that book, he's talking about the 10,000 hour rule, that it takes 10,000 hours to really develop into becoming an expert. But sometimes just investing the time is not necessarily only the thing that will make you successful, because it doesn't necessarily make sense to really hit your head against the wall over and over again and just pray and hope for the door to suddenly approach. Sometimes you have to take a step to the side or to the other side to actually find the door, right? So I think that in our process of, you know, checking and adjusting along the way, one of the things that has really been vital for me has been that every week I usually sit down and I ask myself 3 questions. I write down writing and journaling for myself what didn't necessarily go so well last week, what did go well, what can I be proud of, and how am I going to change the upcoming week? What can I do differently? And I think that you making those check and adjust points for yourself is going to make the journey a lot, I would say that the journey towards success a lot faster. So both consistency, check, adjust is extraordinarily important. And then I have to finish off with saying this, Steve, and that is that we have ambitious goals. You know that. Our target is that we're going to balance 1 million people by the end of 2023. And this is just not a cool number, you know, to achieve, even though it's so cool to say, oh, 1 million customers, right? And celebrate that. It's people's lives that have, and health that has been impacted by what we do together as a team, as well as thousands of people that have totally changed around their finances for themselves, their family, and generations to come. And I think that is so vital. If we look at the growth percentage that we've been having on average over the past years, if we continue to grow with around 34% a year, we will pass the 20 million target that we have in 2035. And I think we will be around 22 million, but anyway, it's going to be a great number with 20 million customers. That's the target by 2035. And by 2050, our target is really that we're going to balance 100 million people. And I think that it's just so much fun to now are being in the process of now soon launching UK. And I'm so excited about, you know, traveling to your country when, you know, that is an option, and being with you there on meetings, on events. And I'm so confident that this market is going to be one of our rock star markets. And I'm so excited about having you on board on this journey, and thankful also, I would say, for everything that each and every one of you are doing every single day.
Well, thank you so much for your time tonight, Hilde. I think everyone loved it, looking at the comments. Very happy you're leading the company. And to everybody else on the call, you know, it's about everything's available to everyone, and it's up to us individually what we do with it. But tomorrow night we have customer presentation. Thursday night we have business opportunity presentation. It's in the Team UK Zinzino Facebook page, and also in the back office in the calendar. So we look forward to that. And Randy Gage is scheduled for the same time next week. So enjoy your evening. Thank you, Hilde, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.